Okay, let me get this started, and the technology will be solved hopefully as we go by. I'd like to introduce you the first panel that, as you can see, is devoted to non-adjudicative processes to create and save international deals. The underlying principle is that mediation is being seen, as you may have heard, as a remedial device. Just as a tool, sometimes the only tool we have to counterbalance the inefficiency of the justice system. However, as you've heard from Professor Schell's words especially, mediation in certain countries, in certain professions, may be also seen as something more, considerably more than that. A device to create deals or better deals. And the question that we will be asking the panel is exactly if this is just theory, maybe happening, or it's already happening. And if this is the case, what's desirable at the policy level, at the educational level, for mediation to become such a tool? Today's panel is extremely exceptional. I'm very, very honored to have these people here. I will be starting to introduce you to my right, with the hope that technology will assist, Michael Leatis, who's the General Manager for Intellectual Property at British American Tobacco in London, and a frequent, most admired speaker on ADR. The second panelist that will take the floor dealing with this issue is a longtime friend, negotiator, mediator, or participant in mediation around the world, Michael McEwart, who's Senior Counsel at GE Energy in Florence, and he will be talking to us about the experience that worldwide and in Europe and in Italy, General Electric and Nuova Opinione is having. Then we will be having, in order from to the Mike's right, Colin Wall, who comes from Hong Kong, is an expert with international reputation in dispute resolution, with his own practice in Asia, and also the Vice President of the International Lawyers Union Committee on Dispute Prevention and Mediation. And last is Franca Musolino, who, in spite of the name, comes from Canberra, Australia, and she's a representative of the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law, and therefore comes from Vienna and New York. As you may know, the UNCITRAL has done some significant work in this field, and we would like to know why they did it and what is it out there for us to take advantage of. And with that said, I'll turn it over to Michael Leatis for his presentation. Then our panelists will comment on his presentation and will add their own data. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, for being with us.
I need the...
Yeah. That's again improvisation.
Good. Thank you. Leonardo, would you move my slides for me, please? Ladies and gentlemen, I have a physical, or perhaps it is a psychological impediment that I cannot at the same time speak and stand still. So would you excuse me while I walk around and distract you? Making and saving deals through mediation. And I would like to invite you to try and think in a completely different way about the value of a neutral person in the room when there is no dispute, no prospect of a dispute, just the prospect of a deal. I'm going to segment it into 6 pieces for you, and I'll keep reminding you where we are. First of all, what are we talking about? Secondly, why does it work? Thirdly, when is it appropriate? Fourthly, what are the challenges to this and the problems? Why is this a great idea for professional lawyers? And what's going to happen in the future? If ever you are in London and you give me a call and you come into my office, you will see 2 things in my office. One wall is full of quotations from Confucius to all kinds of other people, including, by the way, Professor Schell, which inspire me. And The other thing is a crystal ball. And these are the two key tools that I use in managing a legal function within a corporation. What is deal mediation? Well, it's a negotiation in which the parties to a prospective deal together ask a neutral person to help them define the best possible outcome by assuming command of the negotiating process and enabling the parties to focus on the deal. This is how I define deal mediation. Why? Well, because most negotiations are positional. Because most negotiators, not all in my experience, by the way, are humans. And therefore, you get deals which are based on the positions and not on the interests. And because of that, they don't last. They end up as like a quilt in Victorian times. All kinds of different pieces bolted together. And the interests don't fit. Interests. Here's interests, and this is what business deals are all about. But you know, Winston Churchill once famously said of Russia, "This place is a riddle, wrapped in a mystery, inside an enigma." And it's the same way with deals. They are interests, wrapped up in rights, wrapped up in positions, and completely corrupted by power. It's deals. And, you know, a lot of deals revolve around the top three pieces. And they miss out the piece in the middle, the core, the center, what it's all about. It's detached from reality. The ideal way, I would say, to make a deal is to define each party's basic interests, minimize posturing and positioning, match up the interests and the needs, create a sustainable outcome where both the parties or all the parties win and deliver mutual value. What an ideal world that would be. Bring in a neutral. And fundamentally, what I'm just going to say is what I think most people don't understand. I'm not suggesting you don't understand, but most people that I deal with don't understand this. You bring in a neutral person who has got no involvement with the outcome as such, no stake in the outcome, unlike the parties. Someone that the parties can individually trust in and disclose their underlying concerns, fears, hatreds, needs. Channel them positively. Understand. You fall into this unique position where the neutral, as a neutral, suddenly, because you've heard it from the parties privately, you're in a helicopter. You can see the totality of the situation and beyond, and you can see how this can be set up and fixed and done for everybody's benefit. Controlling the process enables the parties then to focus on the substance, and the mediator can steer this in the right directions through all the skills that the mediators have that we've been talking about today and we'll talk about tomorrow. That's how the deal is made. That's how a dispute is settled. A settlement of a dispute is nothing more complicated than a deal. And yet, most of the centers that have grown up, ADR Center, Center for Effective Dispute Resolution, they've got the word dispute wrapped up in them, and they're constrained by it, I'm afraid to say. Quickly dealing with some common negotiating problems that I think a neutral is ideally placed to deal with. Imbalance. We talked about power. I think it's a terrible thing. It does corrupt. But also orientation. The ability to understand. The degree of sophistication. These are imbalances. Culture. Exactly as Professor Shell has just been talking about. Oh, wow. What is face? What is credibility? What is protecting a person who's a negotiator? We talk about IQ, intelligence quotient, but the emotive one is actually much more important. Emotional intelligence.